integrating SEL into dance as part of our NCDPI SEL and Arts webinar series. You're going to want to have a plain piece of paper today. It can be a notebook or just plain paper or something you tear out of a notebook, and something to write with if you want to have some markers or a pencil or a pen. So while you're listening to these introductions, if you want to grab that, you can go ahead and do so. Just a quick note that we will be live streaming and recording this webinar and posting it to our webinar archive, where you can find this video later and come back to it if there's anything that you've missed. You can also click on the link to the bit.ly that we're going to share in the chat at the bottom of each slide. It's also posted, and you can follow along with the slide deck to access later if you wish to come back to anything. We also have some participant notes in a reflection journal, and it also has everything linked in it as well. There's also a listserv that you're going to want to make sure that you're joined if you are not already. And our Facebook page is a great place to find updates on all of our upcoming webinars. So we send those out in our listserv. We often have people ask how you find out about all of these webinars. So make sure that you're signed up for our listserv and you check our Facebook pages frequently. All right. Just a quick moment in case you don't know who we are already by now. We are your arts education team, Brandon and I am your dance and visual arts consultant, and Brandon is your music and theater arts consultant, but we really work closely together as a team, along with our section chief, Lori Carlin. We are very thankful and appreciative today. Oh, Brandon, the slides are not moving forward.
Oh, yep. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay, so yes, we are very thankful to be joined today by two very special guests. They are both fellows from the A+ schools of North Carolina, which we are super appreciative to have so many collaborations with that organization and all that they do for the teachers in North Carolina. But we are joined today by Noël Grady-Smith and Sara Ridings. Like I said, they are both fellows from the A+ schools. Sarah is currently an elementary dance teacher in Wake County with a master's in education in curriculum and instruction, integrated teaching through the arts. And the school she teaches at was actually a named #1 magnet school in America a few years ago. Noelle is a retired dance educator, previous high school assistant principal, curriculum coach, and assistant superintendent of curriculum and leadership development for Davie County. She was also previously named North Carolina and National Dance Teacher of the Year in 2000. These two really make a fabulous team. We've been really excited to work with them, and they very much complement each other perfectly with each of their expertise and experiences. They were on the team of writers for the SEL guidance documents for dance. So we're going to go into detail about that in a little bit. They wrote the lessons and activities section, as well as the teaching practices sections for dance, and have some wonderful ideas and insight to share with us today during their section. So they'll say hello when we get to their part. And just quickly, we have a great selection of professional development available for you. This is all free and for your teachers, future teachers, professors, anybody that is interested in this material. So if you're interested in learning more about any of these topics, you can go into the slide deck and click on those. We'll also share the links to those in the chat here in just a moment.
I'll jump in and just say, if you don't know, the Making Lemonade series is about how to deliver virtual learning through the arts. So taking our lemons and making them lemonade.
Excellent. And that had about 13 webinars, I believe, that we did over the summer on various topics. So you can find all of our previous webinars linked on our website under our webinar archive. So that's where you can go and find any of those previous videos. You can still get credit for those. Just make sure that you watch them all the way through. If there's a reflection journal that goes along with it, you will be required to upload that to a survey at the end. You must fill out that survey to get credit for viewing that video. Okay, just a few quick housekeeping reminders that we of course love having your videos on, but they are not necessary if you don't want to keep it on, but it's definitely helpful for us. Feel free to use the chat for any questions or tech issues that you might have, but remember to stay muted unless at the end we ask that you can unmute for any questions that you might have. But try to keep those in the chat unless we open it up to say you can unmute. Let us know if you're having any tech issues and we'll try to help you with those. But remember that this is recording, so if you're not hearing something well, you can always go back and rewatch the recording later for anything that you've missed or that you want to see again. And especially helpful if you feel like we're moving too quickly, because we really want to give you as much information as we can in this hour. Webex is our state mandated program, so here's just a quick reminder of your screen and controls. Take a moment to notice where your mute button is, your chat button, because we're going to be using the chat quite a bit, and your video layout features. Our agenda for today includes an overview of SEL and the guidance documents and how to integrate SEL into the dance classroom with concrete examples. And then we'll end with a Q&A and reflection and closure. Our webinar goals today include helping you understand SEL competencies, what they are, how to integrate them into dance education with examples, and really think about how you can begin to plan for your own classroom. We have a reflection journal for you that we mentioned earlier, so you're going to want to make a copy of this. Yeah, Brandon's, no, here we go, I've got it. So you're going to make sure to make a copy of that. Oh, it didn't hyperlink for me. Let's see. Oh, he's got it. Okay, so click on that, force a copy, and you're going to take notes throughout the session on that. You do not have to turn that into us today, unless, of course, you want to. We love seeing all of your notes and everything that you're writing in that and your reflections. But if you are watching this recording after it's live, so if you're watching this later, you are going to be required to upload that reflection journal in order to get credit for it. So again, you do not have to upload it today. If you're here live, we have recording of your attendance. But if you are watching this later, we do need to have that turned in with your survey at the end. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to lead us in a quick welcoming activity.
All right. I am going to hold up some emojis, and because we're dancers, we're going to use our bodies to respond and make a shape representing the feeling that is captured in each emoji. Each emoji could represent more than one feeling. I'll call out a few suggestions and you respond in whatever way feels right to you for the moment. So we start with this one. It might be happy, relaxed, or thoughtful, so make that shape with your body. Oh, good. I love seeing your responses. And how about this one? This might be exhausted or shy or worried or embarrassed. What does that look like in your body? Oh, beautiful. Notice with each one how your shape changes, how you might be lifted or droopy, or the energy is projecting out or curling in, or you have a high or a low level. Check out this one. It might be sad, might be tired, maybe frazzled. I don't know what kind of day it's been for you. What does that look like? Ah, yes. Or how about this one? Confused, shocked, overwhelmed. Oh, beautiful. And how about silly or relaxed, maybe a little punchy after a long day? I don't know about you, but I taught 6 classes today. Yeah, or maybe lack of sleep. Confused, scared, indecisive. Oh, I love the variety here. I love the way you're using your hair. Maybe this one, proud. Maybe it's energetic. Maybe you're feeling creative or ready to go today. Yes. Oh, I shouldn't have saved this one for last. This one, angry or impatient. Hopefully you're not feeling too much that way. Those are just a few things to get that range of emotion. But, you know, after a long day, it's the afternoon. So you are probably feeling a range of emotions today. And I want you to choose your top two, you know, because sometimes we're feeling more than one thing at once. So which two do you want to use to contrast? And I'm going to ask you to make a shape or a small action for each one, and go back and forth to make just a teeny little dance for yourself with these two emotions. Maybe you've got a little shy and embarrassed because I'm making you move on the camera, and then maybe you're kind of ready with that creativity and creative energy to go. So maybe you've got 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So repeat it 3 times. And I'm wondering, Brandon or Sayward, if we could take away the screen sharing for a minute so we could see each other on the screen as we try this. I think it would be fun if you have your cameras on. We can get a look and see how people are feeling. All right. I can see some of you. Get ready. Get set. Let's do shape 1 or move 1 and number 2. And number 1 and number 2. And number 1 and number 2. All right. Good job. So, a way to welcome us to the space and share our feelings with our bodies. Thank you for jumping in and participating on that. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Brandon and Sayward.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That was interesting. I hope everybody can hear me just fine. Is that true? Sarah, you can? Okay. We had a little glitch over here, but I think it's fine. Wonderful. So it's easy to feel at all times that we are alone and we don't have a network, especially as dance teachers, the smallest cohort of arts education teachers. But we want to remind you that even as dance teachers, even during COVID, where you might be the only dance teacher in your entire neighborhood, you are not alone, and we are here to help you out. In North Carolina, we serve over 1.55 million public school students in over 2,500 public schools in 386 public school units. And across those schools, we have over 7,000 arts teachers. And though the North Carolina General Assembly lawmakers create the laws, and the State Board of Education creates the policies which impact your job, it's our job at DPI to actually help you implement those policies and laws with great success. So this series specifically has been designed as an initiative from the entire department to help make you more successful at implementing SEL and meeting the social and emotional needs of your students, while also modeling it and taking care of the social and emotional needs of yourself. We are also very excited to bring to light and celebrate the required arts ed graduation requirement. This is brand new as a statewide law. So if you're familiar with such a requirement, it's been a local decision, and now we have that for all students across the entire state to ensure that everyone will be experiencing the arts, starting with those entering the 6th grade in 2022. Just a reminder that here in North Carolina, we teach within the comprehensive arts education structure, which includes arts education, arts integration, and arts exposure. And that was part of a task force, a legislated task force in 2010. And it was found by that task force that all 3 components were independent and are completely necessary for a balanced arts education. We really encourage all educators to look for opportunities to partner with their local organizations to bring arts education, arts integration, and arts exposure, even during virtual learning, to their students. I'm going to pass it off to Sayward now to talk just a little bit about social emotional learning specifically.
So what is social emotional learning, or SEL? Well, SEL addresses these 5 core competencies according to CASEL, which we'll talk about in a moment. So they are self-awareness, self-management. Obviously, those are both dealing with the self, and those are in the orange ones on your wheel there. Then there's social awareness and relationship skills, which are both dealing with others, and those are the ones that are green. And then those all impact responsible decision making, which is the fifth one in yellow. Just a reminder that our previous webinars went into a bit more overview of these competencies, and we will talk about those a little bit later in the webinar as well. But you can find a link to those recordings of our previous webinars on this topic, the notes, and more information on that link there. Today, we're going to dive more specifically into how to use these 5 core SEL competencies specifically in dance. So previously, we talked about arts education in general. There are other content area webinars that you'll find on DPI as well, and then also a general one about social emotional learning overall. Yeah, we're going to move on to the next slide, which is CASEL's definition, the most updated definition of SEL from CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. You can come back and click on this link there, which is the little blue CASEL at the bottom, to read it in more detail, and you can read this slide in more detail. But we just want to point out the highlighted part, the bold part there, that says SEL is an integral part of education and human development. So we really feel like that is what we're jumping on and the key component here. And on the next slide, you'll see this quote taken from the Friday Institute on actually remote learning. And it's talking about, in that red line there, it says, ensuring that all students have opportunities to continue to see their place in our school community is imperative. Addressing SEL is not optional. It is critical to supporting our students and their learning. So it's really imperative that we address that as the whole child when we're in the classroom and we're in-person learning, but also in remote and virtual environments as well. So no matter what kind of learning, we have to address the whole student. Brandon's going to talk for just a moment about SEL plan for North Carolina.
So even before COVID started, North Carolina started their SEL process. And so we are actually part of the Collaborating States Initiative, in which we joined in November 2019 through CASEL. And we have modeled our entire SEL rollout through an SEL implementation team. And so if you click on this link here, you can learn all about how that has rolled out across the entire department. But we immediately recognize the inherent and easily recognized connection between the arts and social emotional learning. So we began putting together natural connections between the arts and the 5 core competencies, which can be found both in brief on this interactive CASEL wheel and in depth in the guidance documents. And we'll talk more about the CASEL wheel in the next slide. And we have started and will continue providing arts and SEL webinars throughout 2021 and into the future, beginning with these in-depth content area SEL webinars right now. So if you take a look at this wheel, it looks very similar to the wheel that's you've probably seen before with all of this extra stuff. And so if you click on the actual wheel, when you are, oh, I need to update this link, I apologize. So if you click on any of the words, it gives you a CASEL definition of what that actually means and the different traits of that that particular competency. Then if you click on the D for dance, it gives you some examples of what that might look like if you're trying to address that specific competency in your classroom. The YouTube video button, of course, gives you a very succinct video, which I think is possibly the best way to learn about these core competencies. They're not art specific, but still that's great to learn the vocabulary that everyone's using. And then around the outside, as Sayward said, the blue is really our community. So looking to our community for support, we have the Friday Institute, which has put together an entire massively open online course, or MOOC, about SEL, and it's really fantastic. Again, not art specific, but across the entire art education spectrum. So I think it's a very great place to start. A+ Schools has put together quite a good set of resources. If your school is using any sort of character education program, it integrates with SEL as well. Then, of course, the CASEL website, DPI is putting together a website. NCMA, even though they are the Visual Arts Museum, they also have some fantastic arts integration lesson plans all about dance and the way that movement is reflected in their art. And they have a specific SEL landing page, which is hyperlinked through this image right here. And then SEL Arts is a website that is relatively new, and it connects the 5 core competencies with the 4 artistic practices of the national standards. So I know that was a lot of edulingo, but I guarantee, or I encourage you to come back and just start clicking on things, and it'll all make sense very quickly. If interaction is not your style, or if you'd like something to print out specifically, clicking on this image here takes you to a static print of what these, or the same information is, just all at once. So if you'd like to see it all compared together, you can take a look at it there as well. All right, take it away, Sayward.
Yeah, and so don't worry if you don't have a full understanding of all of this yet. We know it is a lot of information and it's a lot to take in. And it really takes time to grasp these and embed into our teaching. And so it's really helpful to try to find where your entry points are. Where can you start just taking a look at this and incorporating it and infusing it into what you're doing. And you'll really start to see that it's really already there. It's a matter of just taking that magnifying glass and finding it and bringing it forward. So this is a quick glance sheet that was created actually by our visual arts writers, but it is relevant to everyone. It's a handout that you can print out. And quickly just look at all 5 of them, what they are, and what are some of the things that we might see in how to use them. And so you can save this and use it for quick reference throughout the day or when you're lesson plan writing, and see what you can easily connect to in a plan that you're already doing or you're already planning, and just say, oh, wow, I'm already connecting to this competency with this activity. And so it should be a great starting point for you and something to save. But remember that this is truly an ongoing process and practice, just as our dance practice is. In our choreographic process, it's a practice in our social emotional learning for ourselves and how we address ourselves, but then how we model that for our students as well. Brandon's going to talk about one way. That's another way to easily start with an entry point here.
This is my entry point. And I love how simple the 3 signature practices truly are. A lot of us are already doing some sort of warm-up, some sort of exit ticket or closing activity. And so what this does is it aligns the SEL practices with the flow of our lesson. The 3 signature practices are having a welcoming activity. So Sarah led us through our welcoming activity this afternoon. And then having engaging pedagogy or content, which it's hard not to engage in a dance class. And then having an optimistic closure. So a lot of things that we're already doing. The 3 signature practices playbook here. Oh, sorry. This image is hyperlinked to our website, in which you can learn more about all of these resources from CASEL. The playbook has concrete examples that you can just take out and put into your lessons for both welcoming activities and for optimistic closures. And there is a great short webinar that our SEL lead here at the department put together, if you'd like to watch that as well.
So when we discuss the 3 signature practices, there's an example here. You can click on the classroom, and it'll really talk you through these 3 signature practices and what they look like in the classroom. So as Brandon said, a lot of these are things we're already doing. And when used daily and routinely, they really help students to build self-awareness and relationship skills through noticing and naming their feelings, along with what others are feeling. They teach self-management and relationship building through the practice of interaction with other people and then also with our content. They bring both a soothing sense of security and normalcy to students' routines, but also somewhat of a freshness or novelty with new information and interaction with these people and content and the content we teach. On the next slide, you'll see some examples of each of these, where it kind of breaks down what each of these 3 practices are and why they're important. But welcoming rituals really establish that safety and predictability, sense of belonging with set norms, respectful listening, inclusion of all voices. Isn't that, of course, what we want in our classrooms? So they are most successful when they're connected somehow to what the learning of the day will be. Engaging pedagogy is what you're already doing, right? And they include things like brain breaks and sense making throughout the lesson. They can really foster relationship skills and cultural awareness and respect, as well as empowerment and collaboration. They balance both quiet, independent reflection and writing with group discussion and collaboration, or even more active movement activities. Of course, that's what we're doing in the dance classroom anyways. Optimistic closure is how we end our class together. And this might be the same every day. Think of like an ending reflective circle or a reverence or some way that you're finishing class, but ending with a reflection or discussion of something that we're looking forward to provides that sense of closure and leaves students on a positive, optimistic note. As a performer, I used to say that the audience would most likely remember the very last thing that you saw. So to make sure it was a good one and leave them wanting more. And I definitely feel that if your students leave on this really positive note and excited, they're going to be wanting to come back and figure out what they're going to get the next day as well. So some more concrete general examples of each of these signature practices of things that you may already be doing in the classroom or that could be across really any classroom setting. So think about what you might already be doing in your own classes, like class circles, morning meetings, sharing or creating with partners or small groups, reflecting on what was learned or enjoyed throughout the day, what you're looking forward to. I used to even have students sometimes turn to a partner and share something that they admired about the other person. And it would often leave at least one student in tears of really joy from hearing something positive that maybe they didn't even realize they needed to hear. So finding a way to really bring that in full circle is really important. And I will say even my most advanced college dancers would say, yes, I love circle time. And so it was just really something that they were able to feel really warm about throughout our days together. All right, Brandon's going to talk just for a moment about our actual documents that we're going to share with you.
Great. Well, before we do that, I would like you just to share in the chat as I open these next documents. What are you already excited about these 3 signature practices? What do you see yourself already engaging in? Go ahead and just whatever you connect with. And Sayward's going to share some of them out. As you're thinking about that and typing it, I am going to open up here the amazing guidance documents that Noelle and Sarah created. And as you look through them, you'll even find sort of a different lens than these 3 signature practices. So go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, so I see often forgetting how great circle time is and wanting to add that back in when we return as either openers or closures. Been doing these as part of student-centered pedagogy for as long as I can remember. So refreshing to see how it's being promoted on a larger scale. Yes. I use brain dance as my opening ritual routine. Fantastic. Building community in an online class through circle time. Students lifting each other up. Let's see, addressing the whole child invites an awareness of their peers. Would love to do more reflection with students discussing their knowledge learned and that optimistic ending. Fantastic, lots of great stuff. Opening activity and closing with more of a purpose as we all face pandemic fatigue. These kids enjoy it and it mixes things up a bit. Excellent.
That's great. Wonderful. Cool. So in this document, and Sayward's going to drop it in the chat, but you can also click just on the word dance in the slide deck if you're on slide 30. Were created as sort of a jumping off place. We modified the documents that were originally created by Maryland, and we really talked about the connections between dance and social emotional learning here in the first 4 pages. And then comes the good stuff. The good stuff that Sarah and Noelle created. The way this document is created or organized is that under every header, there is one of the CASEL core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And there are two categories underneath them. There are lessons and activities, or the way that we would explicitly teach these concepts. And then there are instructional practices, or the things that we do to implicitly support those sorts of behaviors in our classroom. And so here you can see that for self-awareness, there's a plethora of examples here that are good for different grade bands. And then there's just sort of a lesson or activity synopsis on the right-hand side. As you scroll down, there's a green section that says teaching practices that supports those same concepts, just in the ways that you speak to your students, in the ways that you organize your class, the lesson flow, the way that you reflect, the questions you ask, those sorts of teaching practices that we can intentionally use to reinforce this core concept. That, of course, continues with the other 4 core competencies as well. And then if you go a little bit further, sorry, my internet seems to be going slow today. There is a table that explicitly shows the connection between the core competencies and our standard course of study. Of course, the North Carolina law requires for us to be teaching the standard course of study. And so here we can see that teaching SEL is not another thing that we need to do. It's how we are doing what we are already doing. So it's really easy to see here that even in kindergarten, there are so many different ways that we're addressing all 5 competencies. And this continues through 8th grade, beyond 8th grade, and even into the high school mastery standards. So I know this is so dense and so rich, but take some time, come back to it, really dig into the meat of what's here. But in the meantime, we have a few of our favorite examples that you can come back to. And being cognizant of the time, I want to just hand this right over to our amazing experts to take you through some concrete examples and some experiences. So thank you very much, and take it away, guys.
Hi, can you hear me now? Great.
Yes.
I'm happy to be with you today. I'm Noelle, and have lived a lot of my life in the dance education classroom. So it's fun to be among my family, my community. We wanted to emphasize that as dance teachers, we begin with the embracing of self-awareness, and it starts as young as kindergarten. I jokingly say that they come very in touch with their emotions, and what they have to do is regain some control to be able to exist in the social context that we put them in school. So this just reminds us of how connected the SEL competency is with our essentials. And it was amazing as we worked through this to see the parallel relationship between the two. You'll notice that there's a lot of stress on emotions, thoughts, and values and how they influence behavior. So getting to know one's own strengths, their limitations, and grounding themselves in optimism and well-being and the all-important growth mindset is really where we want to begin. And as you can see on the next slide, we are taking you right into that kindergarten enthusiasm. Those are, I think, perfect expressions for what you often find in a very active creative movement setting. Again, pointing out the creation and performance essential standards and the thread that I'm going to carry all the way through high school. I know we're all teaching in different levels, and our students also come to us from different entry points. I remember as a middle school teacher going back to 3rd grade and looking at the standards, because a lot of my students had never had dance before 6th grade. And it was most convenient to reach into that wealth and try to kind of pull everything forward from there. So just notice that this refrain of choreographic principles, structures, and processes are oriented toward communication, and of what? Ideas, experiences, and images. And it carries right on through, if you'll see on the next slide, from kindergarten and into third grade. I've chosen to really emphasize third grade today because we're going to do an activity in just a few minutes that really neatly ties in with this. And here we're looking at using those choreographic principles and the structures and the processes to create. So create is the important action word there. And the student-led creation of ideas that are communicated in experiences and feelings. So it's important to kind of see how this flows as you go forward. It also is paralleled with the competencies in SEL that tend to take us from self-awareness to some of the more sophisticated areas, which are going to require self-monitoring and being able to carry that into the social setting. So we'll go to the next slide. Here you can just see the progression. And I know this isn't news to anybody. You've all studied the essential standards. But what I'm fascinated with is the communicate that is in each of our grade levels and why the emphasis is on first you're creating a short dance, then you're creating a short dance about an abstract idea. Then you're using abstracted movement to create a dance. So there are hierarchies of intellectual engagement that go on with each step along the way. And I also have come to realize that as I look at the 5 competencies, that also is true. There's the ability to take self-awareness and usher that into self-management, take self-management and use that in part of social awareness, and then feel that inclusivity of relationship skills. And those are all growth processes that we watch our students go through, but now we have words to give and actual kind of transparency to what we're doing that is really, really helpful. So we'll go to the next slide and head into middle school and high school. I didn't bother to list each of these essential standards, but just gave you the numerical notes so that you can go back and capture those. But I did want you to see that as we move into high school, more and more of the responsibility becomes the students for creating dance or other presentation that are really based on their ideas, their experiences, their feelings. So I'm going to go back to entry points. We may have a high school student who never, had an opportunity to be in a dance classroom before. And again, I would encourage everybody to go back and look at the processes that came along to get them to this point. And remember that you can keep scaffolding and keep building both with the social emotional and with the actual dance curriculum as you move forward. So let's keep going. Got 2 screens here, so I'm going to look in both directions. All right. Now we have an opportunity for a quick activity, and all you'll need is a piece of blank paper and either a marker or pen or pencil, whatever you would most enjoy working with. And you may use as little of this paper as you would like or as much. I tend to be a cover every white surface kind of girl, so it's comfortable for me. I have really dear friends who would probably use this corner, and that would be just where they would be happy to do. So I'd like you just to take that and place it so it's convenient to you, and then take a deep breath and release it slowly. Let your shoulders creep up towards your ears and roll them back. 1, we'll do this 3 times. 2, and on the 3rd time, breathe in with it. And as you roll it back, an audible breath out. Good. And now just take a second. You can close your eyes if you want, or whatever you're comfortable with. Think through your day. Take a moment to center your thoughts. Just allow your mind to kind of pull those thoughts together and recognize your own feelings. We never come to anything with one feeling. I believe we are so multitasking all the time that we have the ability to have lots of feelings. I'd like you to pick 3 of the feelings you've had during the course of today. So just kind of center on that. Great. And when you feel that you have 3 distinct feelings, emotions that you've been through today, we'll turn our attention to our writing instrument and the paper. And you're going to begin anywhere on the paper and continue with 1 line drawing. So 1 line is going to be a description of each of your 3 emotions. And I'm carefully not showing you anything on paper yet because I want it to be your original opportunity to express this. So go ahead and take a few seconds and create a 1 connected line with 3 distinct emotions. Everybody had enough time to do that? Good. And now if we could resume with the screen sharing taken out so everyone can share if you would like. If you're feeling at all shy about it, just don't hesitate. But just share your particular line. Good. Great. I see lots of great ones. Very good. And now, as you might imagine, we're going to, of course, translate this line into movement. So I'm having to scroll through to see everybody. There we go. So the very first thing we're going to do is just use our finger as a replacement for the writing tool. And we're going to start at the beginning of whatever this is. And we're going to use the finger to trace it and thereby reinforce our memory of it. So let's do that 2 times. Great. Now, Brandon, you're ahead of me. That was so good. Now you're going to take the same focus from the paper and you're going to translate that into your facing the camera. And you're going to, I like to prop mine up so I can really be influenced. All right, ready? And from the beginning. Great. Good. Now I would like to ask you if you could use either your elbow, your nose, or your shoulder. You get to choose elbow, nose, or shoulder, and repeat that same tracing. Ready and go. Great job. Now it's time for us to stand up, and I've played with my camera once. I hope you'll be able to see me. Great. Good job. And now we're going to use our whole body and begin at any point and then ready and go. Great job. And coming back. So that's just one small way of taking a thought process about what are our feelings and emotions in the moment. How can we see them in our students? It's very easy when you see a child who's going through this demonstration, whether they've had a good day or they've struggled a bit, you can really detect that. So thank you for participating in that. I'd like to draw your attention to the next slide. This is kind of an A to Z. I did not go through every single grade level. I only chose the two extremes. So we've gone from something that would really appeal to kindergarten and third grade, Sesame Street, emotions and dance, really cute, really funny, and very much entertained my 4-year-old grandchild that I teach 3 days a week. So I thought, well, good, we'll start with that. And I've gone all the way through to Diana Green's book, which is often used at the high school and college level, as expressing quality of movement and how that is encapsulated with emotion and how to best encourage students to be able to express that. So now I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself and move my cursor around. All right, so I find that for dancers, self-awareness and self-management kind of go hand in hand. And so coming from that idea of feelings and emotions, the kind of flip side of self-awareness that I try to model and practice in my class with self-reflection is to use thinking prompts such as, what's one thing I did really well today? Or what is something I need to continue working on to make my dance better? By modeling and practicing the self-reflection skills in dance and applying them to our dance work, our students are able to then translate that, I think, to other situations outside of dance class. And as we're practicing and modeling, I often mix in some of my feedback with my students, saying things like, I noticed what a great job the class was doing on using their personal space in that activity. What's one thing you think you did well, in addition to the personal space? Or what's something that you think you can work on to make it even better the next time we try it? So that's a simple way to just bring those practices in. And then on our next slide, bringing it into the self-management. I mentioned in the chat that my opening ritual and routine uses the brain dance pattern of movements as the opening. And what I've done is I've added something to that kind of sparks and motivates my kids, but also helps their focus and I think their self-management. What we do is a balance challenge at the end. I figure, after we've taken ourselves off balance with the vestibular sense at the end of brain dance, we need to refocus and bring our balance back. So we do a balance challenge. And I've done it in a couple of different ways. When we're in person in class, we're standing in a circle and I want the whole class to balance together, and I'll count and see how long we stay balanced as a group. And so the challenge is to get that group mentality. At the same time, they're working on their personal self-control, their strength, their focus, their stamina. And then they can also see, I usually record how long I counted for each class on the board. And so they're trying to beat what they see another class has done, or beat their record from the day before or the class before, whenever I saw them before. It changes. But anyway, in this virtual setting, I found that with second semester starting, we are doing 7 meetings in a row with the same set of classes in elementary school. So one of the ways I'm kind of keeping them going is saying, okay, tomorrow we're going to set our goal a little higher. I think we started at the beginning with a count of 30, and then we're working our way up to 100 by the end of our 7th class. But let's give that a try. Let's see how we can do together. If you'll find your safe space for a moment and stand up, and the things that I tell my kids so that they're ready to go is find your focus. Look at a spot on the wall that's not going to move. Engage your core abdominal muscles. Those are going to help hold your balance. And then you're going to shift your weight to one foot, and you're going to find your balance. Let's see if we can hold it for a count of 20. Holding steady for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yay! And you can see which kids are kind of holding it steady. You can give reminders and cues about finding the focus. I often notice with my young students, if they're having trouble holding their balance, it's because they're looking everywhere. They don't have that focus. So you can give specific cues to help them get back into what they're doing. Anyway, I find it motivating for them. They get into it and they want to rise to that challenge, but it's developing the self-management right along the way. So moving on to our next slide, going from the self-awareness and the self-management into social awareness. I find that providing opportunities for students to watch each other's dances and practice appropriate audience behavior is a great way to emphasize social awareness. And it's something natural that we do in our dance classes all the time. We share our movement, we share our work, what we've been doing. So whether we're watching a live in-person performance of classmates sharing their dances, or I've learned to record them on the screen with Screencastify, and then we go back and watch it. So we're watching a video of our class and group dances. We can do a reflection. So I provide prompts, especially for my youngest students. You know, they're working on that speech, talking in full sentences. That's part of the English Language Arts curriculum. And I'll give them prompts in a clear, maybe a sentence frame. Also, it's helpful for my English language learners. We have quite a few of those at our school. So tell us about a movement that you noticed. What feeling or idea do you think was being danced? What movement made you think so? Or giving them that specific frame. I see Sally dancing. I saw her do, you know, jumps and skips, and I think that showed a happy feeling. You know, whatever is appropriate for whatever the dance might be. But giving them that opportunity to speak and say it out loud. It's also an opportunity to work on the dance vocabulary and bring in your moments, talking about the energy or the timing, or you can specify your questions, but give them that opportunity to talk and put it into words and how to share appropriately, not just, I like Janie's dance because she's my friend and I think she did a great job. It looked really cool. Giving them the specifics to think about and talk about. And then finally taking, the social awareness to the next level, not just the audience response, but I found that using literature, books, poems, is a great way to get students to think about the feelings of others, identifying the feelings of different characters and how you can express that and empathize and understand the situation and how other people are feeling. Two resources that I've been using today with my first graders, we were using this book called Land of Many Colors. It's about the purple people and the green people and the blue people who get in a fight, but then it becomes a peaceful, loving world. Is a great one. And another favorite that I think could go, I've used it with my fourth graders recently, but I think it could be used with older kids in middle school and high school. This is Unspoken, a story from the Underground Railroad, and it is a wordless picture book that we read it by looking at all the pictures and talked about it, and then students chose a character from the book, any character, but then created shapes that showed what the character felt or was doing at the beginning, in the middle, and the end, and then crafted their small little dance studies from that, based on that book. So we could talk about that book for a long time. It's one of my favorites, but we don't have that much time. So the next bit about social awareness, mirror and shadow dances are something that we use often as dance educators. So mirroring the feelings and copying somebody's shape or movement that expresses a feeling is another way. The picture on this slide happened to come from an activity at my school, doing a shadow dance with a screen and colored lights. That was kind of fun. Anyway, pinning your partner in the virtual world is another way to get partners to work together. It's hard when we're not in the same room to have a partner, but that's one way I found that works, to work on the social awareness. And I'll send it back over to Noelle because I can see we're running short on our time.
Thank you. The next slide talks about something that is common in middle and high school, but not necessarily in the dance classroom. I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that class meetings, though it's hard to find time to build them in, are very important. And the student has the opportunity to both express themselves and to step into other people's shoes and really listen, really have a qualitative experience with being a participant in a community. Let's go to the next slide, which has to do with presentation skills. This is also relationship built. Bonding in the class happens. You build the trust environment. You build that acceptance. If someone makes a mistake, there's a forgiveness built in for that. There's an opportunity to show empathy and to be their true selves as well as their better selves. I find that it's a great thing to give the student voice a very high visibility in your class, give student voice an opportunity and a time so that you're not trying to quell student voice all the time, but you're giving them a platform. This involves sometimes cooperating with another teacher and building a project together, and then having the students present either in your class or theirs, maybe perhaps being in the other classroom to be a support to that student, and then to build a project of movement around it. Let's go to the next slide. And this one's especially dear to my heart. Mindfulness is a kind of new catchword, but it's been part of my dance practice. And I know so many people across the state have been so ahead of their time in being able to help students bond with their own feelings and their own awareness and their own growth. So I encourage you to provide those mindfulness breaks. Really acknowledge the positive collaborations that have happened in the class, acknowledge that openness for feedback and for trust to build, and incorporate thoughtful problem solving, thoughtful recognition of what they're doing. And that vocabulary of actions and consequences is very, very helpful. Middle school was my primary focus, but as I moved to high school, I realized that positive outcomes had to be the focus of every class, and we always wanted to end that way. So we're going to end this part with just a simple meditation activity, and I'm going to shorten it just a little bit so that you can have that sense of doing it, but not necessarily the entire thing. We're going to begin by just rubbing our hands together. Great. Get a little bit warm. Great job. Go ahead and tighten into a really tight structure. Now open them up slowly and hold them so the palms are forward. Study the palms and look at the lines in the palms. Focus on the lines and then begin to think of those as lines of energy. Energy that you're sending out and energy that you're receiving. Take a deep breath in. Try to have a sense of the energy as you release. Very slowly and mindfully connect each finger. Great job. Feel a little bit of pressure against the hand. And as you pull the hands apart, feel that nice burst of energy come through. Thank you. And I believe we're going to go back to Brandon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies. We really appreciate all of that. Brandon, did you want to, we're going to skip the Q&A if you want to stick around for any questions after we finish this up. Brandon's going to talk to you about this reflection really quickly.
All right, thinking about out with the old and in with the new with our new year of 2021. If you have space in your reflection journal as well, but if you'd like to share anything, any one of these in the chat, we are happy to celebrate what you are thinking about. 2 things that you are excited about, hopefully from this presentation. 1 thing that you will stop doing is going to be represented by the 0. And 2 things that you recognize that you're already doing, but you are going to keep doing with intention, purpose, and some SEL vocabulary. And then the hardest part is just simply, what's your first step? Is it to go back and revisit those 3 signature practices, or just start calling your warm up or your warm down, your cool down, your optimistic closure? And what is it that's the thing that you can start implementing as soon as tomorrow? Whether in your own personal learning or in your classroom. And then I believe Sayward will be sharing with you, I'll come back to this slide in just a moment, the survey. You will need to complete the survey, even if you've attended other ones in this series. You'll need to complete this survey for the certificate in dance. It will automatically email you when you have completed the survey, your certificate of attendance, and you can take that to your LEA's representative for recertification. And if you have any problems with that, please give Sayward or I and holler via email, and we will make sure to sort that out for you. And we will stick around, mindful of the time. Yeah, you'll be receiving all of the recording and all of these links and all of the information tomorrow morning when the recording has processed. But again, since we're live streaming on Facebook, it will be immediately available as soon as I hit the stop live streaming button. So at this time, if you have any questions, you are welcome to stick around, or if you have anything to share, you're welcome to share. And if you are ready for some grub, then you are welcome to go ahead and head out. And we will see you at our next webinar. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all. And please share with your colleagues, share with fellow dance teachers, but also all of our other SEL webinars with fellow arts teachers that you know, great resources for them. Thank you.